How to know if your child is gifted, signs to watch for, and how to support them with love. Welcome to today's talk. The topic we're about to explore together is both fascinating and full of challenges. How to recognize whether your beloved child is gifted. And more importantly, how we, as parents, can lovingly support and accompany them on their journey of growth. Identifying giftedness in children is not always straightforward. Sometimes, your child may show unusual traits or behaviors that leave you wondering whether these are signs of giftedness or simply part of typical development. Having a clear understanding of what giftedness really is will help us choose the right educational environment. Parenting strategies and ways to support our children so they can reach their full potential. In this talk, we're going to explore several key points. First, we'll look at common traits seen in gifted children that parents can observe. Then, we'll explore how comparing your child's development to typical milestones can help identify advanced abilities. We'll also discuss the fascinating phenomenon of overexcitabilities that often appear in gifted children. Along the way, we'll touch on the fact that the concept of giftedness is defined differently depending on who you ask. Of course, we can't leave out the role of IQ testing in identifying giftedness. And finally, we'll dive into the most important part: why recognizing giftedness matters, not just for the child, but for parents as well. So, let's begin by diving into each of these areas. Traits of gifted children. To kick off our exploration, let's take a look at some early signs that parents might notice in their child. Many parents start to wonder whether their child might be gifted when they notice abilities that seem to go beyond those of other kids the same age. For example, your child may start reading at a very young age, have an amazing memory, or recall details that even adults find surprising. Or perhaps they show strong communication skills and can relate remarkably well to adults. Understanding these common traits of gifted children is the first step to gaining a clearer picture. However, here's something important to keep in mind. A gifted child doesn't have to display all of these traits. Every child is unique, and giftedness can show up in many different ways. Even noticing a few of these standout traits can be a helpful clue and a reason to explore further. Developmental milestones. Next, let's explore another angle that can help parents identify giftedness: comparing your child's development to typical milestones. Giftedness can sometimes run in families, so it's not unusual for certain gifted traits to appear across generations. Sometimes, a child may exhibit a behavior or ability that seems completely normal to the parent, because they or a family member had the same talent as a child. But if you've read a list of gifted traits and still feel unsure whether your child fits the description, comparing your child's development to the average milestones for their age can offer valuable insight. Look into what skills or cognitive abilities are considered typical for your child's age, and what would be considered advanced, to gain a more objective understanding of where your child stands. Overexcitabilities and heightened sensitivities. Here's another fascinating aspect of gifted children that many parents may not be aware of: overexcitabilities or heightened sensitivities. Many gifted children show one or more forms of what psychologists call overexcitabilities. These may appear as high energy levels, where the child seems like they can never sit still, or they may be extremely sensitive to sounds, light, smells, or even other people's emotions. While heightened responsiveness is fairly common among gifted children, it's important to note that not all gifted kids will exhibit these sensitivities. According to the theory of psychologist Kazimierz Dąbrowski, there are 5 types of overexcitability that parents of gifted children might want to learn about. 1. Psychomotor, a constant need for movement or action. 2. Sensual, heightened sensitivity to sensory input. 3. Imaginational, vivid imagination and the tendency to escape into inner worlds. 4. Intellectual, deep curiosity and a thirst for knowledge. 5. Emotional, strong feelings and deep empathy. Understanding these sensitivities can help parents make sense of certain behaviors or reactions that might otherwise seem puzzling. Rethinking the definition of gifted. Sometimes, understanding whether a child is gifted becomes complicated simply because the definition of gifted is not universally agreed upon. One reason parents, and even professionals, may struggle to identify giftedness is that there's no single, standardized definition. Not everyone who uses the term is referring to the same set of traits or criteria. To understand whether your child may be gifted, it can be helpful to take a moment to explore the history of the term in psychology and education. Understanding how the concept has evolved over time can give you a broader and more nuanced perspective, and help reduce the confusion that can come with hearing different definitions from different sources. The role of IQ testing. So what about testing? Can an IQ test help parents identify if their child is gifted? The answer is yes. IQ testing can be one useful tool for identifying giftedness. However, experts generally advise against testing children too early. It's best to wait until at least age 5, and ideally after age 9, because results in younger children may not accurately reflect their true abilities. Also, it's worth noting that IQ testing is not something parents must do unless there's a specific need, like advocating for educational accommodations at school. That said, if you're a parent who's constantly wondering about your child's abilities, getting an evaluation can offer peace of mind. It's a way to confirm that what you've been observing in your child does, in fact, have a basis. Why recognizing giftedness matters. Now we come to the part that many parents of children with unique traits can deeply relate to. Parents of gifted children often receive advice, or even criticism, that doesn't take into account the full picture. You may hear comments like, "Don't brag about your child. Let them be normal," or, "Don't push them too hard." People who don't have gifted children may not fully understand the challenges you're facing. And sometimes, even you as a parent feel puzzled or in awe of your child, not because you're trying to show off, but because your child genuinely surprises you. In reality, some gifted children don't perform well in school simply because they aren't being challenged enough. If the curriculum is too easy, they may feel bored, lose motivation, or even become lazy. On the other hand, there are children who earn high grades but still feel unfulfilled because their minds aren't being stimulated. Both situations can have a negative impact on the child's academic and emotional development. Often, when parents seek to identify whether their child is gifted, it's not because they want to label them as a prodigy. They just want some confirmation that what they're seeing is real. They want to understand their child better. Of course, some might argue that it doesn't really matter. And in some ways, that's true. Your love for your child doesn't depend on whether they're gifted or not. But recognizing giftedness does help you support your child in the right way. It allows you to find the right help, choose the right learning environments, and offer the kind of support that meets your child's actual needs. For example, standard parenting books may leave you feeling frustrated or confused if they don't apply to your child's situation. If you know your child is gifted, you can seek out resources that are specifically geared toward gifted parenting, instead of wasting time on advice that doesn't work. Knowing your child is gifted also helps you evaluate whether their current school environment is truly suitable. Most importantly, identifying giftedness gives you peace of mind and empowers you to understand your child more deeply. It allows you to create the best learning and growing environment for them, one that truly fits who they are. Thank you, dear parents, for listening. I hope today's sharing has brought you some new and helpful perspectives as you walk beside your child in discovering and nurturing their gifts. Wishing you and your child continued joy and connection on this amazing journey.